Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining our webinar today with Paul Carey. Paul is going to share with us his life journey, including being diagnosed with bipolar disorder, how he became empowered and now lives for the opportunity to help those who have suffered most in the transition into a life of joy. We welcome you, Paul, and thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate being here. Are we ready to go?
Absolutely.
All right, let's do this. My name is Paul Carey, and I run a community outreach program in North County, San Diego. It's called The Lucky 13. It's a program designed to help people who have overcome or are overcoming some sort of significant health challenge. It's sponsored by Tri-City Medical Center and Tri-City Wellness Center in Carlsbad. And anyone who's had some sort of a health challenge can apply. Every year, we select 13 lucky applicants to be part of the team. We then train them for the next 6 months, and the end game is to complete the Carlsbad Half Marathon in January. We teach them how to warm up properly, exercise properly, stretch properly, cool down properly, eat properly, walk, run properly, rest, recover properly. Whatever it is that they need, we give them in order to get them across the finish line safely and successfully. Some of the people who have completed the program in the past have had obstacles such as full heart transplants, cancer survivors, amputees, people struggling with obesity, quadruple bypass surgery, motorcycle accidents, post-traumatic stress disorder, multiple sclerosis, eating disorders, back surgery, lupus, struck by lightning, and bipolar, just to name a few of the conditions. Yes, that's me. That tattoo is real. It arrived there sometime in my early 20s, but between all the medications, electroconvulsive therapy, drugs, alcohol, and mental hospitals, I have no recollection of how it got there. The top tattoo is 2 Timothy 1:7, which means God did not give us a spirit of fear, but one of power, love, and sound mind. Basically the antithesis of what bipolar is. I got that top tattoo from my mom. It's her favorite. And that big bipolar tattoo, well, that one was for me. I'm not sure if it was put there as a warning sign or a punishment, but one thing's for sure, it is there. And just so you all know, I'm not here to offer advice of any kind. I don't have an agenda on medications, on shock therapy, mental hospitals, treatment plans. I'm just here to share a story. I've always been fascinated by people's stories, whether it be in real life, webinars, books. I love books like The Alchemist, Way of the Peaceful Warrior. They've always helped me to stay in the moment and focus on the journey, which is really crucial when you're bipolar, to focus on that journey rather than trying to find your way to a destination. And I hope my story can offer some comfort, joy, and hope as well. So there's going to be a theme as we go through this presentation, and that theme is luck. There are a lot of interpretations on what luck is, but to me, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So when you hear me say I got lucky, it actually means I worked really, really hard. This is a painting by my favorite artist, Edward Munch. It's called The Scream. From the second I saw it, it just screamed bipolar to me. I was so fascinated by it, I even wrote a paper on it. As I was doing my research, I came across these quotes that only confirmed my bipolar art theory on the artist. The first one I feel sums up my feelings on bipolar perfectly. Sickness, insanity, and death were the angels that surrounded my cradle, and they have followed me throughout my life. Ever since my first memories of being bipolar, being a child, I always felt as if there were these sick, stalking angels that I could never escape. The second quote is also really profound to me. You know my picture, the scream? I was stretched to the limit. Nature was screaming in my blood. After that, I gave up hope of ever being able to love again. This was really profound to me because I grew up in a huge, loving, and supportive family. I was offered all the love of the universe, but I was never able to accept any of it. That's me and the fam out at Lake Havasu. That's mom and dad. Mom, dad, I love you very much. They're going to be married 50 years next year. Jenny, Amy, Mary Beth, Paul, Ann, Pam, Mikey, we are all the siblings. My parents were big on family time and still are. It's fantastic. That's me on the first day of school. I think I must have been about 5. I hated school before I ever even got there. That picture captures everything you need to know about the trajectory of my academic future, or at least so I thought. Anyway, on the bottom left is part of a grade school project I did where I had to write about myself. Your family, your likes, dislikes, fears, dreams. We'll just go through this little bottom part here. Fear of school, all caps. After my fear of school, I'm afraid of dying, and then maybe a friend dying. But make no mistake about it, I am much more afraid of school than death. The next part makes me smile. I think you could see the mania even as a second grader. I would like to be rich, get married, and work at Pick and Save. Classic bipolar there, right? I'm going to conquer the world, have a beautiful wife, become a billionaire with no education, and working part-time at Pick and Save. Let's see what else to say. Aspire other to stay off of drugs. That's a pretty good one, young Paul. I was in the 6th grade the first time I ever cut myself. We already knew I was different. I was incredibly high-strung, and I was always in this constant state of angst. Sometimes I'd hit myself or I'd bang my head against the wall because I just didn't know what else to do. This particular day, I went into the kitchen and I grabbed a relatively dull steak knife out of the drawer without really knowing what I was going to do with it. I walked back to my room, sat on my bed with the race car comforter, and held the knife to my forearm as firm as a scared 12-year-old boy could. I pulled the knife across my arm and it made a light scratch. I did it again in the same spot, but a little harder, and then harder, and then a lot harder. Finally, I saw blood, and I got that incredible surge of adrenaline for the first time. I didn't know it, but it was my first visible step into bipolar. I felt powerful, but also nauseous to the point of nearly wanting to throw up. But I knew I liked it. I was able to pawn the gash off in my arm as a skateboard accident or something, but once other cuts started to appear, Mom and Dad obviously knew something was going on, and that was kind of the catalyst to get us into see doctors and start exploring medications. If that driver's license picture is not the look of angst and confusion, I really don't know what is. I grew up in San Diego, but we moved to Scottsdale, Arizona when I was 16, shortly after that driver's license picture was taken. I honestly didn't care about the move. I was so awkward and miserable in San Diego, I was really indifferent as to where I was located. I knew I could be miserable in any city. Upon arrival, my junior year in Scottsdale, I had already been on meds for 4 years, but the self-mutilation continued. It actually intensified quite a bit. I wasn't just cutting my forearms with a dull steak knife anymore. I was using razor blades so I could write words into my arms and chest. The incisions were consistent in depth. The letters had proper spacing and size. I figured anyone can work up enough courage to slash their arm a time or two with a knife, but it takes somebody incredibly screwed up to put that kind of effort into their mutilation nightmare. It was after a session like this that my parents had to make the incredibly difficult decision to put me in a mental hospital against my will for the first time. After a few weeks, I got out, but the cutting didn't stop. It gave me way too much power. I wasn't going to give that up. I could manipulate other people with it. It terrified few, or it terrified most, I should say, but it did fascinate a few. Either way, it felt good. One person in particular that it did fascinate was the cheer captain. We dated my senior year. I was popular and well-liked. I was that cool surfer kid from California. But I had no idea how to surf. I didn't tell them that. Uh, but man, I hated school. School was just this incredibly awkward social platform that highlighted how dumb I perceived myself to be, and it was a showcase for how mentally ill I was. It was also really embarrassing when all my friends graduated and I had to come back as a fifth year senior. A couple of years ago, a professor made us write a letter to our 15-year-old self. There's two parts to it, but I'm just going to read you the first part for right now. Dear 15-year-old me, it gets worse before it gets better, much worse. You don't understand it right now, but you are severely mentally ill. As bad as things are, this is just the start. You will continue to fail terribly in school. You will become a drug addict and abuse alcohol. You will be thrown in mental hospitals and given up on. You will be so heavily medicated, you will lose your soul. You'll try to kill yourself, but you'll fail. You will punish yourself far greater than any person or God ever could. Shock therapy is going to rip your mind and memory to shreds. You will tear your mother's heart out repeatedly. There's my high school girlfriend, Marisa. We realized that after less than a year of dating, we just weren't romantically into each other. I was incapable of a relationship anyways, but we had a very amicable split, and we became best friends. While I was finishing up my second senior year, she was down at ASU, Arizona State, made the cheer squad, and thanks to her, I had 4 great years at Arizona State. I was just never enrolled in the college. Marisa may have been a big-time ASU cheerleader, but she wasn't much of a partier. She was very social, very kind, Saturday night drinker, but that was about it. I, on the other hand, was a full-blown dumpster fire of a human being. Drugs, alcohol, crazy manic phases, spending sprees, God complexes, alter egos, soul-crushing depression, and self-mutilation. Marisa and my mom had established a really close relationship ever since high school, really. They had this behind closed doors pact, and their only mission was to keep me alive. During that time, between the ages of 18 and 22, Mom and Marisa more than once had me petitioned and thrown into mental hospitals against my will. At the time, I hated them for it. I felt betrayed, but they did what they had to do to keep me alive, and I am forever grateful for that. Marisa and I are still good friends to this day. Funny story. She went on to get her undergraduate degree in psychology and her master's in counseling, and she was a social worker throughout our 20s, so I couldn't really get anything by her. I like to think that I served as the inspiration for her career path, and I do take full credit for all of her successes. I was only 22, but we'd been trying to figure out what to do with my bipolar for a full decade at this point. Electroconvulsive therapy is usually a last resort treatment, and I may have only been 22, but we were out of options. I was still cutting, but the rush was gone. What used to be a powerful tool to manipulate others was now just a sad, desperate act that didn't elicit any kind of reaction. Friends and family would just shake their head, it would make them sad, and they would go on with their day. So while my friends were getting ready to graduate, my mom was driving me to the hospital for my first electroconvulsive therapy treatment. That picture right there is at my sister's wedding. As you could tell, I was in a joyous mood. I was 22. I have no recollection of that wedding whatsoever. My 20s really were a blurry decade. I don't remember the vast majority of it. As you could see, my mental illness resume is pretty impressive. As much as I don't remember that decade, I did journal quite a bit during that time, so I'm going to read you just a few short journal entries from that decade. One about medication, one about mental hospitals, and one about shock therapy. This one's about meds. Every morning I open the medicine cabinet to see an onslaught of pill bottles. Little color-coded notes on each bottle might help clarify what pills to take, but they're bringing anything but clarity. I take each pill out of the bottle and set it on the counter. By the time I'm done, it looks like a sampler platter. All I see is a massive pile of chemical confusion. The medicine cabinet is a rabbit hole. Like Alice falling into Wonderland, I fall further and further every time I open it. I have become a prisoner of pharmacology. The next one's about mental hospitals. Mental hospitals are an interesting thing. I've never once gone voluntarily. They're terrifying as a child to have your freedoms taken away. But as the years go on, you get really desensitized to it, and it started to feel normal being in there. And that's when things got really scary. I started to feel like a caged animal. But here's the journal from that. I shouldn't be proud, but I am. I made one of the interns cry today. I found insecurity and I exploited it. It wasn't his fault. He was just overmatched. He's working on his master's in social work, but what he didn't realize is that I'm a prodigy in the field of bipolar. I started college at the age of 12, had my undergrad at 15, master's at 17. By the time I was old enough to drink, I had a double doctorate in mania and depression. He didn't have a chance. I am single-handedly weeding out all of the weak, aspiring social workers in the Phoenix metro area. To the following generation of losers, you're welcome. The next one here is about shock therapy. Everybody always asks about that one, and it's a tough one to explain. But this was later in my 20s when I wrote this. I'm losing touch with reality. Things are starting to feel abstract. With each seizure, I'm drifting further into the abyss and leaving everything and everyone behind. Life is a blurry haze that I can't see with any clarity. I feel as if the core of who I am is being shocked right out of me. What the hell happened? I went from being an awkward boy that didn't understand his sorrow to a malevolent beast. I have emotionally flatlined. I become a black hole where joy goes to die. It's as if I shower every morning in a thick syrup of depression. If someone were to hug me, they'd spend the rest of the day trying to rid themselves of depressive stickiness. All options have been exhausted. It is obvious to the masses that my depression is omnipotent and will never be conquered. It has no boundaries and no end. It is the universe. As you can see there, I did 12 treatments as a 22-year-old, but it was just chaotic over the next few years. At 25, my buddy Dave and I decided we needed some inspiration, and we decided to backpack around Europe. We were supposed to go for 6 weeks, but I made it 4 weeks in, and we were in Rome, and my depression was crushing me even beyond what I was used to. The more beautiful the place that we visited, the more depressed I became. I called my mom from a phone booth in Rome when I told her I wanted to come home right away. I went home and we started shock therapy again right away. I don't remember any of that trip. It was the greatest adventure I ever had, and it is pretty much gone. It hurts to know I've seen the Sistine Chapel and have no idea what that felt like. I underwent 22 sessions between the ages of 27 and 28. They were somewhat spread out there. They kind of call those maintenance treatments. The side effects were significant. I felt like a Stepford wife, like there was some hard wiring issues going on. I'd look at my cell phone and I didn't recognize 80% of the names that were in there. After these last sessions, we pretty much gave up hope. We knew my brain couldn't withstand any more seizures. I was really detached. We pretty much conceded to the idea that I was going to live out the rest of my life in mental hospitals while heavily medicated, assuming I didn't take my own life at some point. On July 2nd, 2009, it was my 31st birthday, and I was released from urgent psychiatric care in Phoenix. It is the biggest hellhole in Arizona. And I got this idea in my head that I wanted to be near the ocean. So I picked up and moved to Carlsbad. My buddy Dave, who I'd gone to Europe with, got me a job waiting tables. Aunt Mary and Uncle Johnny let me live in their garage until I could find my own place. Eventually I did. It was in Carlsbad in the village. It was a shoebox of a studio, but I could walk to the beach nearly every day and watch the sunset. I was about a half mile there and a half mile back, and I'd usually go up and down the beach a bit. I wasn't intentionally trying to exercise or anything, but I was walking about 3 miles nearly every day, and I was feeling a little bit better. After about 4 months of doing this, I was able to get my medication regimen down to just 2 pills. One to help me sleep, the other to help with anxiety, just on an as-needed basis. I always kept that anxiety pill in my pocket, kind of like a security blanket. But as the weeks and months went by, I was taking it less and less. Summer of 2010 was approaching, and I was feeling a little better on the inside, and I thought, hey, might as well try and look good on the outside too. I wanted to get in shape, but I couldn't afford a gym membership, so the only thing I could come up with was running. The first few weeks were horrible. It was awful. But I was always sure to end my runs at the beach, getting to watch the sun go down over the Pacific after my runs was a nice reward. Summer came. It was June 30th, my dad's birthday. I called to wish him well, and it was right after one of the best runs I ever had, and I was feeling amazing. A mood that could easily be mistaken for a manic phase, and that's exactly how my dad saw it. He asked about how I was doing with my meds, and I made the mistake of telling him that I was only taking a very small dose of sleeping medication, and that was it. He immediately expressed concern and told me to go see a doc and get back on a better medication regimen. It was his birthday, and I love him, so despite being angry at him, I let it slide, and I told him I'd follow up with my doc as soon as possible. I was really bummed. It made me feel like a child. Here I was out in California, I had held a job, I got my own place, I started exercising, and I was able to reduce my meds. In 2 days, it was going to be my 32nd birthday and my 1 year anniversary of not being hospitalized. That was a big deal for me. I was really proud. It crushed me when my dad said, go see a doc and get back on more meds. It wasn't his fault. He was just doing what he thought was right. So I got this idea in my head. If I could run some sort of 5K or 10K and get a shiny participation medal, it would be some sort of tangible or quantifiable proof that I was changing. So I went online, started searching for races in Carlsbad, when I stumbled upon this. Sign up today for a chance to participate in the 2010-2011 Lucky 13 program and run the Tri-City Medical Center Carlsbad Half Marathon. This program assists those who have had or are currently overcoming health obstacles to achieve their fitness goals. Those selected will be professionally trained at our state-of-the-art Tri-City Wellness Center in Carlsbad to prepare for the 13.1-mile run in January. I remember thinking, damn it, if only there was something tragically wrong with me, maybe they would accept me into this program. For some crazy reason, I didn't think bipolar counted. So I read you what it actually said, but this is what I was hearing in my brain as I read it. Sign up today for a chance to participate in the 2010-2011 Lucky 13 program and run the Tri-City Medical Center Carlsbad Half Marathon. Win the respect and admiration of friends and family. Prove to everyone that you're not the world's biggest train wreck of a human being. Make it known that you're an adult that puts on his big boy pants every day and makes good choices. Shove that shiny participation medal in everyone's face and tell them I told you so. The deadline to apply was at midnight. That meant I had 2 hours to work up enough courage to apply. I threw my application together really quick. I just talked about what I had been doing to combat my bipolar over the last year and how I think running was really helping me. I am certain that I left out the part about shock therapy. I figured they'd see that as a red flag. I got my application online and submitted it with about 5 minutes to spare. I went to bed dreaming of crossing that finish line. I just thought if I could run this race in under 2 hours, it would separate me from someone who just made it through the race. It would mean like I was an athlete. If I could run it and hit that 2 hour mark, there would be no question No questioning my greatness. A couple weeks later, I got a call and I got into the program. I may not have known that I was preparing for this, but I was. And an opportunity presented itself. I was prepared and I got lucky. So here's how the program worked. 3 days a week, the 13 of us would have group workouts together at the Wellness Center. We were given a running schedule by In Motion Fit, which is a running club in San Diego, and they kind of gave us homework, so we would do our own runs on our own time during the week. And then every Saturday morning, we would meet up with In Motion Fit with the running group, and we would do our long run for the week. So shorter runs during the week and then one long run on Saturday mornings. I remember the first time I showed up to the Wellness Center to meet my trainers for my initial assessment. I showed up rocking the mohawk, because I'm so punk rock, in board shorts and a tank top with my gym clothes and a plastic grocery store bag, because that's all I had. I felt incredibly out of place. The Wellness Center is like a country club without the golf course. I couldn't afford $20 to join the worst gym in San Diego, and I was walking in thinking, I get to work out here for free. I'm going to get training here for free for the next 6 months. It was like I won the health lottery, which for me is way better than the actual lottery, because had I won millions of dollars in my youth, I for sure would be dead by now. It got even better when I met my trainers, Cien and Sabra. They were two incredibly fit young women with degrees in kinesiology and certified by ACSM. I had no idea what kinesiology was or what ACSM meant, but it sounded really fancy, so I was really impressed. I remember driving to my first Saturday morning run, too, and I started having a panic attack. Thoughts were racing through my head, and I just was saying to myself, this isn't who you are, Paul. You should be sleeping off a hangover right now. You don't belong with these amazing people. You're a failure. You've always been a failure. Why go make a fool of yourself in front of these strangers? You know you can't do this. This is not who you are. Just turn around and go home. And then I thought, you know what? This is supposed to be awkward. This is supposed to be terribly hard. The fact that it makes you feel incredibly uncomfortable is probably a good thing. Don't you dare turn this car around. This is the opposite of everything you have ever done in life, and this is why you have to do this. You have to do this, Paul. I am sick and tired of failing, and I'm sick and tired of being me. After just a few Saturdays, those runs became the absolute best part of my week. Running was putting me into this Zen-like state that was unlike anything I had ever heard of. It was bliss, and it carried over into every aspect of my life. I was better at my job. I was kinder to my family and friends. I was kinder to strangers. I was even becoming kinder to myself. It was otherworldly, but I'd be lying if I didn't say it didn't, or I'd be lying if I didn't say it gave me some kind of a identity crisis. So if I'm not bipolar, then what am I? Beyond a shadow of a doubt, this was by far the best I had ever felt. I was changing, and I knew it. It was beautiful and scary. About 3 months into the program, I was running along the coast by myself, just staring at the ocean, breathing the air, feeling my heartbeat, sweating, when something really strange happened. My friends and family have always loved me. That's never been an issue. But what I realized is that I had 32 years of stored up love and affection in my brain that was always offered, but I had never accepted it. However, on this particular day, as I was running down the coast, my brain produced this perfect chemical cocktail, and this chemical cocktail unlocked the doors to all of that stored up love and affection, and it hit me all at once. I never felt love and acceptance at the time it was offered. It wasn't until I was doing something to help myself that I was finally able to accept the love of others. And when I did, life became different. Happiness and joy were always just words to me with no feeling attached. I was finally experiencing these essential emotions of life for the first time at 32. It was life for me. It was life for the first time ever. It wasn't medication. It wasn't shock therapy. Just me, the ocean. It was life. And I had done it. I had found my way out of prison. Because as long as I can run, I can be bipolar. Check me out on the cover of Healthyou magazine, along with my Lucky 13 family. Things were going good, and we were about 2 months away from our big race day when I woke up one morning with extreme pain in my lower back. I went in to see the doc, and he ordered an MRI, but it took about a month or so to get it with the insurance hoops and all. I hobbled around for the next month trying to do my runs and workouts, but it just made it worse. Got to the point where there was about 3 weeks till race day, and I couldn't do anything. I was finally able to get my MRI, and I went in to discuss the results with my doc, and he explained to me that I had a herniated disc at L5S1. I had no idea what that meant, so I didn't even flinch. I just said, okay, well, I'm running a half marathon in 3 weeks, so how quickly can we fix this? He realized I had no idea the severity of my condition. He paused and said, Paul, I'm surprised you're even able to function in your daily routine. You can't just push this disc back in. Surgery is the only way to fix this. In all likelihood, your running days are over. Taking away running, it was taking away my medicine. I couldn't survive without it. The doc said, find different activities, and I just said, you don't get it. Running did what 20 years of medications and shock therapy couldn't. If you're taking away running, you're signing my death warrant. I was like I had this brief stay in paradise and then got kicked out. I was so mad at the time. I wish I didn't even have those few months of joy and clarity. It only made it harder to move forward knowing that there was treatment and my body wouldn't tolerate it. The world's biggest cliche about getting through life is just keep putting one foot in front of the other. I was literally putting one foot in front of the other while running, and it was saving my life. And now it's gone. The doctor said that under no circumstances was I to complete the race, but I did. That's my sister Bethy in the picture there with me. Once she found out I couldn't run the race anymore, she offered to walk it with me. It was a bittersweet day. My entire family was so proud as I was going through this program that they had all booked flights months ago to come watch me run. This was supposed to be this historic day, but I just felt like a fraud. I was planning on running the race in under 2 hours, and as you can see my race results there on the screen, it took me over 3.5 hours just to walk it. It was like I had the rug pulled out from underneath me at the last minute. I crossed the finish line. It was nothing like I imagined. I was in excruciating pain. Everyone praised me for my efforts and told me how blown away they were by this radical transformation I had been through, but I knew it was all for naught. I knew it was only a matter of time before this herniated disc took me down. I couldn't run anymore. I had no chance against bipolar. The race was finally over. I went home, threw up, didn't leave my apartment for 3 days. I called my mom crying after the 3 days looking for some comfort, and her reply to me was, go back to school. Go back to school? Mom, are you kidding me? In this, my worst moment, you're telling me to go back to school. You want me to go back to that horrible place that highlights what a failure I am? And she said, Paul, you've come a long way. Your story isn't over. You may not see it, but you've changed. You're not that person anymore, whether you can run or not. I'm not going to tell you what I said following that. I've never been so ashamed at what a boy can say to his mother. Rest assured, it was a smattering of vulgarity accompanied by a recap of all my failures in academia. A few weeks later, I went into the wellness center to express my thanks to the trainers and the entire staff, for that matter. All my free membership and training was up, and there was no way I could afford membership. Kind of felt like I was getting kicked out, but it's not like they could just give everyone free memberships and training forever. I was expressing my gratitude to my trainer and the fitness manager there, CN, when she said, "Hey, everyone here is really proud and inspired by you. We have an opening at the front desk. Would you like to work here?" I don't even think I asked how much it paid. I would have worked there for free membership. I never thought I was worthy enough to work there, even at the front desk, greeting people and scanning gym cards. However, an opportunity presented itself. I was prepared, and I got lucky. I adapted to my role quickly. I was already friends with everyone there, so the transition into becoming an employee was pretty quick and easy. I had become particularly good friends with my coworker, Katie. She was just finishing up her college career and talking about how excited she was to graduate, and she just had this glow about her. And she said, "Paul, you should really go back to school." I was about to rip her head off when she followed it up with, "You're motivated and really smart. You do really well." Pause for a minute because I didn't know how to respond to such nonsense. But then I realized for the first time in my life, I had a friend that only saw me as smart and capable. That was a big thing for me. I'd never had that. Then I realized it wasn't just her. It was everyone I worked with. It was my entire Lucky 13 family. It was an entire community that saw me this way. They never knew that old Paul. To them, this is just who I was. I was a fighter. So I did it. I went back to Maricosta Community College in my 30s. I had that same sick feeling in the pit of my stomach from when I was 5. Over the next year, I went to school, trying everything I could do to fix my back. I tried decompression therapy, chiropractic care, cortisone shots, electrostim, physical therapy, platelet-rich plasma injections, but I was realizing quickly that surgery was the only thing that was going to fix this. I think I was just using school as a distraction from all the pain. I was terrified of failing, so I sat in the front row and took notes on everything. I was getting my GE work done, my general ed work done, but I was also studying kinesiology because that's what all of the trainers at the wellness center had. They all had their degrees in kinesiology, and they were like superheroes to me. Oh, I found out what kinesiology means as well. It is the study of human movement. I was taking classes like anatomy, physiology, techniques and analysis, and personal training, and I could not get enough of it. When the full academic year was over for the 2011-2012 school year, I had a 4.0 grade point average. As it turns out, I was pretty smart. I had back surgery that following summer in 2012. Recovery was brutal. Physically, yes, but more so mentally. I took the next semester off to recover. Again, I thought this was going to be the thing that broke me. I knew bipolar was coming for me. There were so many times during that recovery I just wanted to cash in my chips and say goodbye. But I didn't. I never did. I wanted to. I wanted to so bad. I just wanted to be a victim, but I was forgetting how to be one. I went back to school in spring of 2013 after my semester of recovering. At that point, I also started studying to get my personal training certification. And you know what? I found out what ACSM stands for. American College of Sports Medicine. That's me, Paul Carey, certified personal trainer. Look how confident I am. I got certified exactly 1 year to the date after my back surgery and 2 days before the 2013-14 Lucky 13 team started. That's when CN said, "Hey, would you like to be a Lucky 13 coach?" I was terrified and confident at the same time. You can be both. I was never planning on becoming a trainer for the Lucky 13. It seemed way too far-fetched. However, I was always preparing for it. An opportunity presented itself, and I got lucky. I can't tell you how proud I was over the next 6 months as I coached the team. I guarantee you I learned way more from them than they did from me. They inspired me to stay focused in school and do everything I could to continue recovering from my back surgery. It took well over a year to recover, but I was strong, and I was a runner again. My first race day as a coach came the day of the Carlsbad half marathon. The team was ready. I was ready. I was just excited to get through the race before any of the Lucky 13ers so I could cheer them all across the finish line. My family had all come out again to cheer me on and watch me coach. And I was running across the finish line. The family was cheering and yelling, and it felt amazing. But honestly, I was so preoccupied and nervous for everyone I was coaching, I didn't think much about my own race. I gave my family and friends hugs and smiles, but was quick to excuse myself. I didn't want to miss any of the Lucky 13ers as they came down the home stretch. But right before I was about to walk away, my sister Bethy stopped me and said, "Paul, wait, did you check your time?" I said, "No, why?" She said, "Well, I was tracking you on the app, and you finished in 1 hour, 59 minutes, and 21 seconds. You did it in under 2 hours." I was honestly just so excited for my team. I hadn't even thought about my own time. I just kind of laughed, smiled, and went to cheer everyone through. I went back out to the finish line, cheered everyone home. All Lucky 13ers finished. At that point in time, it was the proudest day of my life. I was never planning on helping 13 strangers with severe health conditions complete a half marathon, but an opportunity presented itself. I was prepared, and I got lucky. The next season came, and I was on year 2 as a coach during the 2014-15 season. It was another smashing success, so much so that the team actually went to the Tri-City Medical Center CEO and asked if he would be willing to continue to sponsor them for the Triple Crown. He immediately said yes. They had just finished the Carlsbad half, so they would also need to complete the La Jolla half in April and America's Finest City half in August. At the same time, my coach, mentor, and fitness manager, CN, decided she was leaving the wellness center to chase her lifelong dream of becoming a firefighter, which was really cool, and she did just that. However, this meant that someone needed to step in and run the Lucky 13 program. Terrified and confident, I got to pitch my vision to all the big shots at Tri-City. For 2 hours, I went through my well-thought-out, calculated vision about where the program was, where it is, and where I want to take it. I told them that to me, the Lucky 13 isn't a 6-month fitness program anymore. It's a life-altering experience, and the bonds and friendships made during that time are unexplainable. So rather than filtering through groups every 6 months and disbanding, let's make this a year-round community of fighters that grows by 13 extraordinary people every year. Being bipolar, you dream about being in a room of important people sharing grandiose ideas, and that's exactly what was happening. And after 2 hours of my meticulously planned pitch, I stood there terrified, waiting for a response, and they said, "That sounds amazing. We're behind you, 100%. You're our guy? Now let's go change some lives." I never planned to be the leader of a program that drastically changes the lives of people who need it the most, but an opportunity presented itself. I was prepared, and I got lucky. After I took over the program, we made it through the La Jolla half, and all we had left was AFC, America's Finest City in San Diego. That race is in the middle of August, and it was sweltering hot and also humid. One of the lucky 13ers in the picture there, Ellen, got horrible cramps at mile 9. I stayed with her, but she could barely move. Everyone had passed us by because we had to stop every 10 feet to stretch her out and get her some fluids. I was honestly just trying to get her to the next aid station so we could treat her and drive her to the finish line. However, she had different ideas. They were breaking down the course, but we just kept going. The race results are posted there on the slide. Dylan and I tied for dead last. We were the last 2 people to get our triple crown medals, but we did it. It was one of the proudest coaching moments ever. That's what gratitude looks like. Giving and receiving gratitude is one of the world's best medications. On the right is Shauna and Louie. They're a husband and wife team that got selected last year. Shauna was in a motorcycle accident a few years ago and was in a medically induced coma for 8 days while they pieced her back together. And Louie had quadruple bypass surgery years prior, and he finished the half marathon at 70 years old. On the left is Stacy. She was morbidly obese just over a year before she started the program, and that is her receiving her Triple Crown medal. She earned the nickname Meltaway for obvious reasons. I thought when I was told I'd never run again that my life was over. I thought running was the thing that would save me from bipolar, but it wasn't. It's helping others. This is just a slide of some of the things I found to be true for me as it relates to bipolar. I find the more altruistic I am, the less narcissistic I feel. Helping others takes all the pressure off of me. The more I exercise, the less dependent I am on medications. I don't take long-term medications anymore, and I haven't for the last 6 years. However, there are always a few times each year where I'm doing everything right, exercising, eating the right foods, meditating, going to the beach, whatever I need to do, and I still hit a rough patch. And when that happens, I'm not too proud to take medication in the short term to help get me through it. Sometimes those rough patches only last a couple of days, sometimes they last a couple of weeks, but they do always pass. I'm not advocating this for anyone. This is just what works for me. We all have our own personal formula as to what works, and that formula is different for everyone. Education is very important. The more I learned, the more I became empowered, and the less I felt like a victim. I understand way too much now about anatomy, physiology, chemistry, psychology, astronomy to make excuses. I know what factors into my mental illness, and I know what I have to do to beat it. I'm wrapping up my undergraduate degree at Cal State San Marcos right now, and I love school. I love gaining as much education as I can from my professors. I'll go to office hours, and I don't even ask questions about class. I just want their wisdom on life. While I'm on the topic, thank you, Professor Chow. Education is a double-edged sword, though. I can't make excuses anymore. I know what's happening in my brain. And after all my life experiences and education, I have a very high emotional IQ, or emotional literacy. I cannot control the fact that I have bipolar, but I do hold myself accountable for my choices. The Dalai Lama was asked by an interviewer what the most important meditation we can do now is, and I think this is good advice for any bipolar, but he responded by saying, critical thinking followed by action. Discern what your world is. Know the plot, the scenario of this human drama, and then figure out where your talents might fit in to make a better world. It's really hard to be the backbone of such a community of fighters. It's a lot of pressure for anyone, let alone someone with bipolar. Thankfully, I don't do this myself. This is Melanie and Cody. They're both amazing people and trainers and coaches for the Lucky 13. All the trainers, for that matter, at the Wellness Center are amazing and have mentored me in one way or another. I've been there, working there for over 5 years now, and I've learned something from every one of them. I would also be remiss if I didn't thank the Tri-City Wellness Center. They have not only watched me grow into who I am over the last 6 years, but they have supported me and nurtured me along the way. Same goes for Tri-City Medical Center. Growing up bipolar and being in the workforce, I was always terrified that my employer would find out about my illness and somehow hold it against me or treat me different. Tri-City embraced me from day one, and their support has never wavered. Not only did they accept me for who I am, but they put me in the most honored position of leading the Lucky 13. Why I'm on thank yous, thank you in motion fit as well. The absolute best part of my job is getting to wake up every Saturday morning and run along the Pacific Ocean with you wonderful people. So giving back is now a major focal point of the Lucky 13 program. We've all been given a lot and have been incredibly fortunate to have been chosen for this life-changing experience, and we have the duty and joy of paying that forward. That's why I'm here doing this webinar today. I have to give back, not just to Lucky 13, that's my job. I get paid to do that. I owe it to the bipolar community. I was embraced unconditionally by a community of total strangers, and it saved my life. It's a debt I could never fully repay, but I can spend the rest of my life trying. Everyone gives back in their own way. On the right there is Stacy. I mentioned her earlier. She used to be morbidly obese. She had gastric bypass surgery, and now she speaks to people about her experience and helps counsel those considering the same procedure. In the middle is Tina. She had a sepsis attack 17 years ago, and she lost her fingers and toes. She now volunteers at Tri-City Hospital in the same department that helped save her life. On the end is Melissa. She had a full heart transplant just a couple of years ago. She is now one of the nation's biggest spokespersons and advocate for Donate Life. Donate your organs, people. This is just a little bit about me. Back in December, the San Diego Union Tribune did a one-on-one profile on me, which is what you see there on the left. Also, I was nominated by some of the Lucky 13ers I trained, and I was selected as one of the heroes of the marathon, along with two of the people I trained. One is Shauna, who I told you about earlier. She's on the stage there with me, who was in the motorcycle accident. And the other is Sarah. Sarah is a breast cancer survivor, and she also suffers from lupus. Whenever I look at this picture, though, I always laugh. Sarah is the operations manager for Tri-City Behavioral Health Facility. Back in the day, she would have been my arch nemesis. I may have made her do extra push-ups. I am wildly uncomfortable being in the media, being dubbed a hero. It comes with pressure, and my bipolar side is comfortable failing alone when no one's watching, but failing publicly is a whole nother thing. But that's just the illness talking. Whenever I start to feel that pressure, I just remind myself the only measuring stick I use for success is how I can help change people's lives for the better. When you pour your heart and soul into helping others as best you can, you won't fail. It was at the Heroes Banquet in January that I was approached by Lori Butler, who introduced herself as the executive director with the International Bipolar Foundation. She heard my story as I was being honored. We went out for coffee a week later, and she invited me to share my story with you all here today. I can't thank the International Bipolar Foundation enough for everything that they do and for providing me with this platform to share my story in hopes that it will help someone who sorely needs it. I never meant to bare my soul to the world through the International Bipolar Foundation, but an opportunity presented itself. I was prepared, and I got lucky. You know, the science behind what we do as trainers, it's fairly simple. Any person, any capable person who really applies themselves can learn it. It's not what makes a great coach. I have this theory that since bipolar allows for emotional pain far greater than most will ever experience, that it also allows for a far greater capacity for empathy. This is a blessing and a curse as well. I feel empathy is what makes me the coach I am, but it also is what keeps me up at night. However, the trade-off is absolutely worth it. I can't tell you how many times I've had people approach me saying, "Wow, what a story, Paul. I can't believe you were able to cure yourself from bipolar." And I want to make it very clear, I'm not cured. To me, bipolar is the always lurking beast. But that's okay. Just like you can be terrified and confident simultaneously, you can also be bipolar and happy. They're not mutually exclusive. Sir Isaac Newton said, "What we know is a drop, what we don't know is an ocean." To me, that's an invitation to always be searching, always be seeking. Happiness is there for the taking. We bipolar just have to work way harder to find it. That picture of me there on the right always reminds me of my other favorite quote by Sir Isaac Newton. To myself, I am only a child playing on the beach, while vast oceans of truth lie undiscovered before me. Again, always search, always seek. Embrace what you don't know. Embrace the unknown. Always prepare. You don't even need to know what you're preparing for. That's the cool part. As you can see, I never really knew what I was preparing for. I'm preparing for stuff right now that I don't even know about. Preparing just means that you're growing, you're learning, you're evolving, you're open to change. Preparing is searching. Never stop searching. An opportunity will present itself, and you will get lucky. There is one really huge thing that I had been unknowingly preparing for since I was selected to be in the Lucky 13 program back in 2010. Again, I wasn't preparing on purpose, but an opportunity presented itself, and I got lucky. She said yes. That's my beautiful fiance, Jessica. You can be bipolar and be loved. And I'll leave you with this. Dear 15-year-old me, it gets worse before it gets better. Much worse. You don't understand it right now, but you are severely mentally ill. As bad as things are, this is just the start. You will continue to fail terribly in school. You will become a drug addict and abuse alcohol. You will be thrown in mental hospitals and given up on. You will be so heavily medicated that you will lose your soul. You'll try to kill yourself, but you'll fail. You will punish yourself far greater than any person or God ever could. Shock therapy is going to rip your mind and memory to shreds. You will tear your mother's heart out repeatedly. You will also go back to school. You will be an honors student. You will replace drugs and alcohol with education and empowerment. You will be free of medications and become the epitome of health. Your days of mental hospitals and shock therapy will come to an end. You'll come to the understanding that having large chunks of your memory erased due to 50 electrically induced seizures works to your favor. You will inspire others and lead them to health. You will chase every dream. Your story will change the lives of many. You will stop punishing yourself. You will embrace life. You will make your mother smile. You will find your soul. You will accept love. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, for sharing. I know, excuse me, that must have been very challenging at times, and we appreciate your openness and honesty. And we do have, excuse me, a couple questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the first question is, someone is curious if you have a blog or some other interaction platform.
I don't. I don't, to be honest with you. Not right now. That's not a bad idea. I'm actually a very private person. I don't do a lot of social media. Most of the communication I do social media wise, I usually kind of rely heavily on my fiance for that. But I, I am. I'm a very private person. I'm very much an introvert in my own personal time. So stuff like this, I don't share very often.
Great, thank you. Thank you for answering that honestly. The next question is, this woman has a 23-year-old son who has bipolar and is on many medications, and there are obviously to her side effects of weight gain, and he is not um, exploring exercise. Is there some way that you can recommend for her as a mom to help motivate him?
That's a really hard thing to do. When you're medicated and the side effects, sometimes it takes away the motivation to exercise. My advice would be start very small. Start with something, even if it's just a walk around the block, just to see different sights, smell different smells. That's how it started with me. It was, like I said, it was just kind of on accident. Just started walking around. So rather than taking the big approach of saying, hey, let's get you a personal trainer, let's get you a gym membership, let's do all these things, I would suggest just start very small with just walking, very simple things.
Great, thank you, Paul. I do want to share there are a number of thank yous. People that are very grateful for you sharing your story. There is a woman who has a 28-year-old son very similar to you, and she just wants to thank you for your story of hope, courage, and love. She is forever grateful. So I wanted to include those comments as well as questions. Um, and there are a number of people, because we are international, that are asking if there is a Lucky 13 program out of this country or in other states. Are you aware of anything similar?
Not like this, but a really good problem we have been having is trying to figure out a way how to grow this program and make it bigger. And because we don't want it to be just this community. We want it to be nationwide. We want it to be worldwide. The formula that's in place works incredibly well. I have had people who run hospitals in other states who have seen the program when they come down to run the Carlsbad half marathon, inquire as to what they can do to start up something similar. And I know that other entities have taken note and are incorporating this model. So I do hope that it continues to grow. I'm sure that it will. The expansion is a tough thing because part of what makes the program so great is the intimacy that you have with everybody involved. But it's it's a wonderful program, but as far as actual other programs exactly like this, no. But I would certainly encourage people to join running groups. Places like In Motion Fit in San Diego, they have running clubs all over the United States, and they're walking and running clubs. So you get that camaraderie, you get those bonds, and I could tell you the best conversations and the best coaching and the most you learn about people is when you're on those long walks and runs together. That's really where all the bonds and fun happen. So even if you're not able to get into a program exactly like this, there are other avenues, walking clubs, running clubs. Sometimes they have boot camps as well that you could join. Just somewhere where you can have an avenue to be around other people, have fun, have camaraderie, and feel healthy.
Great, thank you. Another question here. Did you go through extreme withdrawals when you stopped your medications?
No, I didn't. because it happened, I had to really shorten up that aspect of the webinar because it just would have taken way too long to go through how it actually happened. But it was a long tapering. So it really happened over the course of a year. So it wasn't it wasn't extreme withdrawals. It was an adaptation period for sure, because even though it was a tapering, um, you're learning that balance between what is it that I can exactly do physical exercise wise, eating the right things, and the medication. Like again, it's that personal formula, and it's tricky, and it's exactly that. It's a personal formula for everybody. But yes, obviously if you go off of most any medication, just cold turkey, you're going to go through withdrawals, and it's going to be really, really hard. But I sort of tapered off, so it wasn't too drastic. There have been situations in the past where I went off of medications, obviously not recommended, but just did in my 20s. And yes, if you go about it that route, the withdrawals can be terrible, and it's not a good route to go. So,
thank you for your answer. The next question is, was lithium ever a successful part of your medication regimen when you were on medication?
Yes. Successful, I don't know, but Depakote was the drug that was always my baseline. That was the one that throughout it all I was on more than anything, and I was on for years at a time. It was, again, it was kind of my baseline med, and everything revolved around that particular medication. As far as medication goes, whenever anybody asks me about it, because I have a huge family. I have like 38 first cousins, and I'm kind of the go-to for medications, and they'll say, "Hey, Paul, what did this do for you? What did this do for you?" But the bottom line is, with medications, I'm always hesitant to. I'll always share my own experience with a medication. That's not a problem, but I always let people know that the only way you're ever going to find out what a pill is going to do for you is to take it. That's the only way you're going to find out, and the way our bodies work, and the way our body accepts and rejects medications, we're all individual with that, and there's a million things that factor in. Medications, it's kind of like I relate it to picking out a pair of running shoes. They can work great for some people and be terrible for the other person. It's just a matter of which one is the right fit for you.
Excellent, thank you. In terms of the Tri-City Wellness Center, Lucky 13, do you do personal training?
Right now, I just do the Lucky 13. So that's a full-time job of in itself, and I'm still wrapping up my college career, so I don't do individual clients right now. But the Wellness Center is chock full of educated, you have to have your bachelor's degree and a really good certification to be a trainer there. If they happen to live in the area and wanted a good trainer, they could certainly reach out to me. I'd love to talk to them, and I could get them set up with somebody that would work for them.
Great, excellent, thank you. Next question, are you presently engaged in any formal psychotherapy, counseling, etc.?
Yes, I am. And I also attend a bipolar support group. I just recently started incorporating that as well. People see me as the backbone of this program and doing all these things, but sometimes I'm still just that scared child. And the great thing about psychotherapy, about having a counselor or going to support groups, is that, and sometimes it's a little bit of trial and error of trying to find the right person to help you out. But it doesn't hurt anything to bounce ideas off of somebody or to go to a support group. Medications are tricky because you got to find the right combination and stuff. But just to talk to somebody, it's incredibly important. And even when you're feeling well, I still feel it's incredibly important. And it's definitely something that I utilize, and it helps me out a lot. I'm a big advocate for having someone that you can connect well with as far as that goes. Absolutely.
Great. Thank you, Paul. That looks like all of the questions for now. If you do have a question that you hadn't thought of and you want to send to Paul, please email me at dbrown@ibpf.org, and I'd be happy to forward that to Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. Any questions, or if anybody would like any information about the program or would just like to talk to me, I'd love to chat with anybody who would like to. So it'd be my pleasure.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. So thank you all for joining us today. And remember that this webinar has been recorded, so I know there are a number of people who can't take the time off work or don't have the opportunity within their day to explore this hour. So will be archived on our website this afternoon for your future viewing and also to share with others. Thank you again, Paul. We really appreciate you opening your story, your heart and soul, and many good things I think are coming your way, and many people did benefit from your sharing. So thank you.
Thank you very much. It was an honor. I really appreciate it.
Excellent. Have a great day, everyone.